Hello, how you doing? This is the cheap property update. Sweet home, Alabama, y'all. Okay. Now, I prefer to do most of my research over the internet. Okay, that's how I've been doing it for years. I don't fly all over the place. I don't fly to Alabama. I don't even know my way around Alabama. Okay, that's not to mention if I do fly there, I gotta rent a car to go from county to county. So I do 95% of my research over the internet. So Alabama is not my native state, but this is what I did. I downloaded a map of Alabama. I printed it, and then I went county by county to see what the names of the county were, and I put a number there, and the number was the percentage of blacks who live in the county. And the reason why I do that is because most of the tax delinquent properties are in the black community. That's number one. But the second reason is that I don't want to be bothered with all that racism mess. Okay, so I want there to be a decent amount of blacks in that property so I don't have to be bothered with the racism mess. Okay, so I got the tax delinquent property list, copied that out. Okay, and a lot of them were for $45. A lot of those properties, $45. Now, of course, if you buy a property like that, you're going to have to pay legal fees to the county. So you made your budget for $300. You're going to have to find a lawyer. How are you going to find a lawyer? Well, you just say lawyers in so-and-so county, Alabama. How much does it cost? $200 for me to do the title search and et cetera, for this particular property. Those are things I explained that in the previous video. That's how you're gonna have to budget for that. Legal things that you pay to the county and the lawyer. And it's going to probably add up to like $1,000. So if the property is $45 delinquent, $1,045 is what you pay for to get your title deed to the property. Okay, now most people, let's talk about Skid Row. Most people on Skid Row have $100. They can get $100 either by hustling or they get a check of some sort. So let's just say that you get an $800 check, which is being generous, y'all. Okay, you can go to the bank and say, how much do I qualify to get a loan? Okay, now I'm not into borrowing. Okay, but let's say the bank offers you so and so. Then you take that money, you got that in your mind. You take that money, what you qualify for, and you go county by county. Okay, you look at those cheap properties, like Indiana. If you found a county in Indiana, and you see a county, okay, you say you qualify. The bank said they're gonna give me such a money, so I can qualify to buy that property. And you can, what you do, you find the county that you want. Okay. But when I went over the internet to Alabama, some of those properties cost $45. Tax delinquent property cost $45. But I know I'm going to have to pay those fees, so I'm going to budget for $1,000. Okay, to get the title deed to the property. Now, like I said, I'm not a fan of buying abandoned properties. I'm not a big fan of doing that. However, if you do go buy an abandoned property in Alabama, go to the city offices first and ask them. They may tell you, well, you have to have an asbestos test, which costs $10,000. Forget the house. You don't have it, okay? Forget the abandoned house. But I don't know. You got to look at that particular county, that particular city. They have their rules for abandoned properties. Now, like I said, I do not walk into abandoned properties because you may as well just demolish the whole thing except the foundation. Most of these abandoned houses have very good foundations. So I would urge you to keep the foundation. But look, I always say you got to live on your budget. If you get an $800 check, you don't need to buy $3,000 worth of furniture. You got to live on your budget. But like I said, there are still some cheap properties out there. I don't know if they're going to last forever, but they are all over. They're in West Virginia, Alabama. If you have $300,000 to spare, I would definitely suggest that you buy those abandoned projects that HUD doesn't want. They are in Oklahoma. They're definitely in the Carolinas. I would urge you to buy, those abandoned projects that the HUD does not want, and you can really rehabilitate them, make them handicap adaptable, etc. Because the Bible says you're always going to have poor people. The poor you're always going to have with you. So if you buy a $300,000 project, I wouldn't just rent it to a bunch of rich people. There's plenty of poor people that would love to live in those projects. So look, there's still tax delinquent property and cheap properties out there. Indiana, Ohio, Alabama, Mississippi, Appalachia. I don't know about Florida. I think you ought to forget about Florida, y'all. Okay, just forget about Florida. Florida's beautiful, but forget about it. Okay. But look, there's still some cheap properties out there. I remember seeing a church for $13K, another church for 32K, maybe another one for 27K. There's still some cheap buildings out there. You know, you have to think outside the box. You can't always say you want a clapboard house. You can say, okay, that's a funeral parlor. You can turn that into a living space. You can turn a bank into a living space. You can definitely turn a church into a living space. You can turn, my fantasy is to buy a Walmart Plaza. That's what my fantasy is. Okay, you can turn that into a living space. You can turn an old Kmart building or old schoolhouse into a living space. You can do that. But that's the cheap property update. Have a nice day.